Fight Like a Man by Dominique Wilkins. Chapter 1. Andrea walked in on her mother standing over her father as he sat on the couch with his work uniform on in front of the TV. The living room was quiet, even with the TV on. At that moment, no one was watching it. Her father, Jack Rush, was facing the screen, but he was not watching it. In his peripheral, he was watching his girlfriend, Amy Foster, standing over him menacingly. Amy stood over him, building up steam before she spoke. Jack refused to acknowledge her presence because regardless of what he said, he knew by past experiences she was going to be complaining, nagging, and upset about something that he may not have any control over. He had just gotten off work, and he simply wanted to have a seat and look at the TV, even if he wasn't actually watching it. As Amy stood over him, she grew angrier and angrier by the second. At this point, she found that she had the ability to reach her anger peak in 0 to 60 seconds, and by Jack pretending not to see her standing next to him, time seemed to be shaving off some of those seconds. Amy hated the man that Jack had become. He was born into a family where their money ran freely. His parents had good jobs that allowed them to have almost everything that their hearts desired, or at least a version of it. Jack grew to be a grown man that was used to getting his way of what he wanted by simply paying for it because he had the money. Now that he had a girlfriend and 2 children, the money was no longer running freely when it was split amongst the 4 of them, and he was having trouble adjusting. She would watch Jack go to work and come home. That was basically all he did. She found herself doing her job and his too. That pissed her off to no end. Why did she have to cook, clean, care for the children, work, take out the garbage, fix the things that broke around the house, while he did nothing and wallowed in self-pity? She often wondered what she needed him for if she was doing his part too. It was these thoughts that provoked her to haul off and hit him in his face with her hands and lately her fists. Many times she found herself passing her anger point and physically beating him until he was forced to leave the house and return after she had cooled. She dared him regularly to hit her back. Amy would call Jack every name under the sun, all of the bitches and bastards she could think of. On any given day, Andrea had learned from the best how to hurt someone's feelings from asshole to even making zero sound degrading. Jack had inevitably become the man that she hated to love. To be self-controlled, pure, working at home, kind, and submissive to her own husbands, that the word of God may not be reveled. Titus, chapter 2, verse 5. As Andrea looked on at the scene about to unfold, she thought nothing of it. She had seen it too many times before. Her mother would clench her teeth, make 2 fists, or use her big purse and hit him in the back of the head until he could take no more and leave. She would then light a cigarette, grab her cell phone, and call one of her friends to tell them what that sorry son of a bitch had done that day. They'd go on and on until she had calmed, went back to the day's activities until it was time for bed. Only after the house had gone dark would Jack quietly return home. She was just about to turn to leave the living room to find out what her brother Daniel was up to when she saw her father had turned from the TV and was looking directly at her. She looked into his eyes to try to understand his expression. She hadn't seen this one before. Her mother was still standing over him, brooding silently. She hadn't hit him yet, but when she reached out to make contact, he grabbed her hand, then turned away from Andy to look at Amy as he stood up to become eye level with her. Amy was stuck in shock, while the room remained silent. It had become an eerie silence at that point. Jack held her wrist in his hand and stared her down for what seemed like an eternity, but may have only been a few seconds. He broke his silence through clenched teeth when he told her that he loved her, but would no longer allow her to demean him, especially in front of his children. He went on to tell her how would never hit her, even though she repeatedly begged for it, because he was not raised that way. He told her that it was her fault that the children would be ruined. He loved them, but could never be the father that they needed, because they would never respect him, whether she admitted it or not. Jack let Amy go, turned slightly away from her to put down his phone and pick up only his single car key, leaving the rest of the ring, and left. They never saw him again. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6.